I think you need to really understand the history of this country. The pastoral community actually occupies over 78% of the landmass of the Republic of Kenya. And if you look at the composition of Kenya as a sovereign state, Kenya comprises of two things, actually it's constituted by two things, land and people. So the pastoralist communities, with their diversity, with their differences, with their different geographical locations, have over the years been marginalized, been oppressed, and been neglected by all the successive regimes, from the colonial government to the first post-independent government of Mzee Kenyatta, to Mzee Moi's government, to Mzee Kibaki's government, to Uhuru's government, and right now we have President Ruto's government. So what we have done right now is to look at the formations of those governments, the underlying issues both in terms of policy formulations, policy contextualizations, and all past government strategic development and sessional papers. So having reflected on this, and remember that Kenya now has been independent over 60 plus years, it has dawned on us that the pastoralist community has been taken for a ride for different reasons. One, either politically speaking, we were not so conscious of our environment, and therefore we were assumed to be as part of the passengers, let me say, within the Republic of Kenya. And you know, in Kenya, there are the haves and the haves not. So this great community called the pastoral community, having been ignored or marginalized, the current constitution has given us a leverage, because the current constitution is a document. I always call it a coalition government. We have the majoritarian interest, we have the second tier, the second majority groups, and then we have the third, what I can call them the majority, who are also floating. So the framers of the current constitution actually had three components in mind. One group wanted a pure presidential system, meaning those are the majoritarians. The second group wanted a representative democracy called a parliamentary system. So when they came during the constitutional making process, when they converged at Naivasha to write a report that will eventually give birth to the current constitution, those from the marginalized communities, including ourselves here, sat and say, look, this is a document that brings together two different contending groups. What is there for us? That's why we had to fight hard and included devolution and equalization. It's almost 13 years since devolution. It's almost 13 years since equalization. It's up to you, the citizens, to tell us the impact of devolution and as to whether equalization has been implemented both as required by the Constitution and the Equalization Act. So this summit, being the fourth, brings together the pastoralist leadership. This is the fourth attempt. And I can tell you, this group was not born 4 years ago, no. I found it in 1999. And one very strange thing that happened, out of all of us who were there then, one morning, the 6 officials were all appointed in 1999 as assistant ministers by then the late Mzee Moi. The 6 officials of then, the pastoralist, actually it was called the Pastoralist Parliamentary Forum, but within the government circles it was called the Northern Pastoralist Patriotic Front. It's like it was made to look like an insurgents-oriented organization. So all the officials led by Dr. Abdullahi Wago is here were appointed as assistant ministers. So the organization was left with nobody to manage. So we stopped our subscriptions. The lead person, and I'm sure you know it, was also deported. He had a dual citizenship. He was a Kenyan Somali of Ethiopian origin who had also a European citizen. So the gentleman was also deported to Ethiopia. Ethiopia decided to throw him somewhere, and eventually he went to Basak. I'm sure you must have had that history. So this organization has a very rich history. It's very rich history. But luckily right now, courtesy of the current constitution, those shenanigans, those extra judicial mechanisms are no more, because the current constitution doesn't allow. So what is it right now? What is it that right now we intend to achieve? That's what Mzee, my mentor, the Honorable Kaparo, actually was alluding to. He was our first patron. He almost lost his speakership job by associating with this particular group. But right now, courtesy of this new constitution, everybody's free as long as you do it within the law, within the ambit of the law. That is why this fourth meeting being held, and this is historic. It brings us to, it's a reflection session. I am reflecting as a member of parliament, as a senior citizen, as a long-serving member of parliament, on the pitfalls, the journey to leadership and what we have done. And honestly speaking, we have not performed very well. Let me say this. And I've asked our friends, all my colleagues here, to stand firm and say we have not performed as leadership. And I will be the first, among the first people who will take responsibility. We have not performed. We have been talking about this road from Garissa, Madogash, Habaswein, Wajir, all the way, for the last 60 years. Every successive government has given just lip service to this particular road. I'm sure most of you, your parents were not born at that particular time. It's the same thing. I stood here with Mzee Moi in 1998 talking about this particular road. I stood here with Mzee Kibaki talking about this particular road. We stood here with President Uhuru talking about this particular road. And now we're having a President Uhuru. So what we are saying is, no more taking us, no more the play games that we have been seeing here. We must be told what is there. And even us as leadership, we must be very pragmatic, we must be truthful, and we must say enough is enough, and we must get a share of the national development. So this road is our number one priority for those of us who come from this. Nothing more, nothing less. Equally, Northern Kenya is the only region that is not connected to the national grid. Fortunately, Marsabit is the home, the Turkana wind plant. But yet, Marsabit does not benefit from the same electricity. That electricity is taken to the farthest corner in Lake Victoria, to the other parts of Kenya. So it's because of this that we are saying, let's get out of our cages. Let's be very pragmatic. We have a president on the face of it who has admitted that he's a pastoralist. And he has also demonstrated through policy pronouncement that he's a friend of the pastoralists and is willing to put his foot down and uplift the economy of the region. That economy can only grow if this road from all the way that I've mentioned, all the way from Garissa to Wajir, Mandera is tarmacked. That will make communication easy. If the national grid is connected from